membership-based organization. You can become a mentor as part of the mentorship program or a mentee. You can certainly volunteer your time, and we cater the volunteer experience to match the professional background and needs. And of course, we always welcome donations. It takes funds to kind of carry out all of these programs, and we'd love to do a lot more if we have the chance. So I'll leave this slide up here. Please follow us on Instagram. You can go on our website and subscribe to our newsletter to stay connected. And we very much hope to see most of you again back. And this day, this symposium would not be possible without the generous contribution of our donors. So I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge them. First is the SEC Construction Management Energy, Biblos, whose generous donation we will enjoy during lunch. And of course, IEEE, our trusted collaborators, friends for a long time. And we've had many collaborations with them and looking forward to more. And so with that, I would like to give the floor to Linda Megerdician to say just a few words for IEEE. Linda is the founding president of the Women in Engineering group for the San Fernando Valley chapter. She is also the past president, emeritus president, apologies, over 2024 for AESA, so she can answer all your questions there too. Please welcome Linda.
Good morning, everyone. Ida mentioned, I'm Linda Megerdician, currently serving as the founding chair of the IEEE Women in Engineering chapter in San Fernando Valley. IEEE is the world's largest technical professional organization. It was founded over 62 years ago with a mission that still guides everything we do, advancing technology for humanity. With more than 450,000 members globally, IEEE connects engineers, scientists, and researchers across every discipline. IEEE also publishes 30% of the world's technical literature. And that means the research that shapes our daily lives, starting from Wi-Fi, semiconductors, AI, sustainability, systems often come through IEEE channels. And of course, the IEEE Standards Association develops the global standard that allows technologies to interoperate safely and reliably. Now let's look at the areas that we are active in and we transform the engineering landscape. Research and publication, professional development, standards development, and community engagement. We do have the IEEE Women in Engineering chapter, which was established in 1997, and it's the largest international, one of the largest international programs that connects women technologists globally to each other. And the WE Affinity Group is committed to 4 main goals. They are professional networking, student outreach, technical excellence, and community impact. We have our WE board members. Ani Aslanina and myself are part of the ASA board and part of the WE board. And this chapter was established in June 2025. Ironically, Los Angeles did not have its own chapter, and we just started it. IEEE believes that the future of engineering lies in cross-disciplinary collaboration. We had the pleasure of collaborating with AESA in the past during the IEEE Sustainability Conference in April 2025, and we are happy to continue that partnership by supporting today's symposium. When engineers from multiple disciplines come together, meaningful progress accelerates, and we are happy to be part of that. If you're interested in the organization, you can become a member or connect with us, and I would like to thank all of you for being here. Thank you to the organizers for giving the IEEE the opportunity to co-sponsor today's symposium. We are very honored to help open this event and wish everyone a successful and inspiring day ahead. And with that, I would like to invite my dear friend, Shanteh Baboumian, our amazing chair of the symposium today and our MC, to start the event. Shanteh Jan, please.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'm Shanta, I'm Master of Ceremonies today. Thank you all so much for coming. The sun took a day off and didn't let us know. I guess that's what we call an involuntary system shutdown. It is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Maria Mehranyan of Cordova Corporation, who will discuss environmental challenges. Maria Mehranyan has been a driving force in redefining what leadership looks like at the intersection of water, sustainability, and public service. Her work continues to inspire real-world impact across communities and ecosystems alike. Maria Mehranyan is the managing partner of Cordova Corporation, a California-based engineering, construction management, and program management firm delivering transportation, water, energy, and education projects. Previously serving as CFO, she has spent nearly 40 years helping build Cordova into one of the nation's leading specialty services firms, recognized by ENR and profiled by Harvard Business School and Northwestern's Kellogg School of Business. Maria is the former chair of the LA Regional Water, she's probably the chair too, Quality Control Board, and has served 2 terms on the Delta Stewardship Council, where she continues as a water quality expert for the Safe Clean Water Program's Regional Oversight Committee. Her honors include Corporate Woman of the Year, Healer of La Madre Tierra, and the Ellis Island Medal of Honor for her work in preserving Armenian heritage. She also serves in leadership roles across educational and nonprofit institutions, including the Dean's Leadership Board at Cal Poly Pomona College of Engineering and the Board of Trustees at Southwestern Law School. Maria has presented at the United Nations on sustainability and the status of women. With that, I'd like to welcome our keynote speaker, Maria, to the stage.
Well, good morning. Thank you for the great introduction. What a day to talk about environment and water. I think the gods of water must be listening this morning. I would like to really thank AESA. I think this is an organization that a lot of young engineers and a lot of young scientists that are Armenian by origin find a good home and become a part of your organization. There is a gap, and I see a lot of them because we interview a lot of engineers, and some of them that I talk to, they speak very highly of this organization and how they really gave them a home. So let's think with the idea that we are dealing with a huge environmental global issue that has a huge, big impact on regionally and locally. So it's not only globally that it's an important issue, but it's the impact that we have, and today probably is one of those days that we can see this impact. However, I believe that the progress is in process. It's happening when we're sitting here. It's happening every day, and I just want to make sure that we're not thinking that there's this dark picture because we are dealing with all these problems. So I'm thinking of what the challenges are. So we all know that the globe is heating, and we know that globally the Earth is warming by 1.3 to 1.5 centigrade, going to 3 by 21,000. So, and that presents a lot of challenges. Let's see what the challenges are. So today, again, talking about water, hydroclimate variability. It's something that we constantly deal with, and right now, for example, fewer storms, cluster desert, heavier, more severe droughts, and not only the cyclical droughts that we're dealing with in California, but also the added layer is, of course, the global warming. Rapid succession of floods following droughts. And then snow runoff regime change. The snow runoff, we have more rain, less snow. We have the rain over the snow, which makes it melt faster and creates the flood risk. And growing loss of snowpack, specifically after 2050, and we know that, and the scientists can talk about it. And then accelerated sea level rise, a local rise influenced by ice sheet melt, and we all know that. For the past 10 years, I walk by in an area in San Diego by the beach, and I noticed in the past 3 years of how the beach becomes bigger and bigger. It goes wider because of the erosion, coastal erosion that happens by warmer water and warmer waves that hit the beach all the time. And of course, higher sea increased levees. The levee stress, for example, in San Joaquin Delta, we have 1,000 miles of levees, and these levees are being stressed all the time, and the chance of breaking and the chance of what that does to the water supply that we use for drinking, and how the sweet water and the salt water are going to get mixed, and how Southern California is not going to have enough drinking water. So generally we think that, or we know that water is at risk. The water supply is at risk. And I have, I think, a pretty picture of how water supply is at risk and how there is so much shortage in so many areas of the world. So this is in California, Lake Ourbano. And this picture is taken in 2011, and it was repeated again, but it's very similar, so I'm using this. So this is July of 2011, same picture, August of 2014. Again, July of 11, August of 2014. July of 11, August of 14. And so that's the reality nearby in Sacramento Valley, very near us. And this is one of the sources of water supply for Sacramento. And then we are coming to talk about the groundwater contamination, and it's the same issue. The groundwater also is not, we have the tank leakages, we have, sorry, I might have a slide here that helps see better. Yeah, we have the petroleum stations, we have the sewer leakages, we have irrigation that has pesticides in it, and all of this ends up in the groundwater. And in California, specifically in Los Angeles, we have the legacy contamination, which comes out of all the aerospace stuff that we have done, building of the Rocketdyne and all that, and how our groundwater sources, specifically in the valley, are contaminated and really costly to be cleaned up, although we're trying that. So then we talk a lot about, because of this, we talk a lot about adaptive management. And we're thinking, what is adaptive management? The adaptive management is that we learn and we adapt and we try to stay with the course of the change. And what is hard is that the scientists are telling us that they're behind what happens, and there's not enough good data sets, there's not good predictability. It's unpredictable of what the trends are going to be, and they're nothing like they were before. So with that, if we look at the next one, it's like, okay, what does the science do? The science is trying to improve forecasting, which is important, trying to expand monitoring. We find fundings for monitoring, develop scenario-based planning exercises. Because we don't know enough of what trends are, we have to develop specific prototypes of what possible scenario will be, and then run our scenario-based planning and exercise. And create tools for users that are user-focused, that the users can understand what's going on. The concern now is, what are the solutions, and will we have them on time? We know there are solutions. How much of it we can really access now? And I believe that yes, we can solve this, but it's really going to take time. So with that, I just want to, I have a thought that it's not just the scientists or the politicians or the regulators that are going to solve this problem, but it's when a solution happens where policy, community, science, and innovation come together. And we need to find better ways of policy making, planning, building. And this is something that is being discussed, but how much of it is implemented needs a lot of improvement. So, and I like this slide because it talks about integrated governance. Because I think it's more than the science. In the integrated governance structure or approach, we have the legislators who need to have the knowledge of how they legislate something. I mean, a few years ago, one of our Los Angeles mayors said, we have to have a zero discharge from Hyperion water plant to the ocean by 2030. And people who understood water, they knew that there's no way that you can do zero discharge because you still have the brine, you're going to have to put it somewhere. So legislators need to understand this, the science behind this. And they need to have inclusive process. They need to bring the scientists, the people who understand the knowledge of the water. Regulators, you can build policies that help sustainability. And I want to talk about one a little later. Public agencies and consensus building is such an important thing. Every major project that is going to bring sustainability to at least California that we know has opponents. The huge, I mean, think about it. High-speed rail, everybody has an idea, should it be or should it not, and then there are neighborhoods that they don't like it. The Delta conveyance program brings water from Delta. People like it or they don't like it, but these things slow down the process. They slow down the process of bringing sustainable, permeable infrastructure. So public agencies are required to build consensus, to explain the neighborhoods and the community groups what is one project doing and why is it important and how it should be implemented. NGOs, I think these are organizations that are either environmentally active. They need to lobby. They need to lobby not only the people, but also lobby at the levels of public elected officials where they make the decisions. And then private sector. I am a big believer. I have been in infrastructure space, practitioner infrastructure, and I believe that we are living in an era where public sector cannot do this by themselves. There's not enough funding, there's not enough knowledge, there's not enough technology, and private sector owns a lot of this. And somehow we have to find a way that we can bring in private sector in order to bring the capital, expertise, efficiency, and technology. It's a key thing, and if they don't, I mean, the size and scale of the project and the way that it impacts business and lives of people, they need to bring in the private sector. I want to talk about, we talk about this model, and I want to talk about one project or something that I was involved in, and I really gave me a lot of hope of we have the solutions. There was a measure, it was called Measure W. It was a county measure which was constructed around stormwater and stormwater capture. A program came out of it which is called Safe Clean Program, which did 25 cents of taxing on unpermeable spaces in your homes, like the garage roof, the house roof, the walkways that are not, that are cement. And out of that, they created a $300 million every year. This doesn't have a sunset. Every year, $300 million came together in order to build infrastructure that captures stormwater. It's a very interesting concept because it is not really that difficult, although they are huge engineering projects, but they capture the water, they treat the water, and they let us reuse it. And the interesting thing that happened there is that the better water quality and water supply become two sides of the same coin. The better you clean your water, the more water you have. The less water you have to move from Sacramento Delta or from Colorado River, then you can then save less in energy because there are better experts in energy in the room, but from what the numbers that I see, 30% of energy in California is used to move water, and we can save that, and the carbon footprint can get smaller. So how did it work? The Measure W really brought in this concept that we can build something that bring together the communities, the science, the private sector, the public sector, and build consensus around it. And today, according to the county, this is an interesting, the county public works, who's responsible body for administering this, they captured a total of 96.3 billion gallons of stormwater during 23 to 24. Some of these, or a part of these facilities that captured that, came out of Measure W. And there's still $200 million worth of projects for the past year and a half that has not been allocated to projects. So the way it works, the cities bring these projects to a body that is called a Regional Oversight Committee, where you score these projects and then you make them eligible for funding. So this was a great example, and one of the things that as a practitioner you think that if you're involved and if you can start from a regulation, how you can bring to sustainable infrastructure. And there are other examples, but this one I really like, and I thought I was a part of it and I wanted to share this. So this is all I know about water, and energy is not something that I'm an expert in, but from everything that I'm reading, at 2022, instead of California, we have 36% of power came from renewable sources, solar, wind, geothermal. 2023 was 43%, 2024 was 57%. Although these numbers might vary, but the reality is that the trend shows a positive progress, which I think, again, a testament to the idea that there are solutions and we can solve these problems. The only thing is that now, okay, can we be on time, and how much time do we have while we're trying to continue building resilient infrastructure, knowing that this is a marathon and it's going to take time. And for example, the underground utilities. Right now, Southern California Edison, Southern California Gas Company, they're trying to do the undergrounding of utilities. Well, that's a key thing, right? We know that the fires that started in Altadena and Palisades are because of the old infrastructure that we have in transmitting electricity. So, however, when we look into the cost of it and the work that has to be done to underground this is going to be a lot of dollars and a lot of time. However, it's important to think that definitely it should be done, and it will be a process. And then somebody can ask, okay, well, what do we do now? Okay, what do we do? How do we deal with, I mean, these fires are going to happen, things are going to, how do we deal with it? And I think, again, from work that I've done in California through infrastructure is to create really self-organized responses. I mean, when the fires happened, there was no network, there was no fabric of the communities to understand what they can do, how they can help each other, how they can move things. And that gives you the ability to absorb the disaster and to kind of rebound and maintain our existing infrastructure. We have a lot of infrastructure that is not in good shape. We have these reservoirs that were built in the 50s, and right now they're not seismically viable, and then we don't use them. And as you know, again, in Palisades, that was one of the issues that we had because we couldn't use the reservoirs. So we like to build new infrastructure. We came up with great ideas of, what if we built this, but then the existing infrastructure is not being maintained the way it needs to. And then the awareness of the interdependency between the regional population and economic sectors and the places when something happens. So I'm thinking that after saying all this, it is so essential to every one of us in this room, what do I do individually in terms of my behavior, civic engagement, collaborative efforts, what do we ask our politicians, what should the institutions do, what should the private sector do, what do the communities collectively can do, how can we collaborate, and what should the science do? And this is a science room, and and how I, everyone in this room, am a part of this, and can I play a role in this? And we can play a role through our profession, through our engagement, through our social network that we have. And I want to close by saying that we are not, I don't think we are only making progress, but we're solving the environmental crisis. We are trying to learn, adapt, and restore. And yes, it's going to take time. And I believe that every solution that we build today is a proof that progress is not only possible, but it's also happening right now. And with that, I would just want to open up and see if there's discussions that we want to have, if there is time, and questions. Or, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So you mentioned water sustainability and some of the challenges LA is facing. So what is the biggest challenge? I mean, the takeaway is that it seems like is it the water runoff that's the biggest problem that LA is facing? I'm guessing a lot of it's water.
Water runoff definitely is one. Water runoff is definitely one of them, but that's the runoff has two sides to it. One is that constantly when you irrigate, when you use all the pesticides and fertilizers, and then the tanks and the leakage of sewers and all that, that's the runoff water that impacts the groundwater. And then the other runoff is the storm water. That right now we can have gallons of water right now washes the freeways and ends up in the ocean. We have so much junk right now. And in the next 5 days, we're going to use that surfers can't get in the water. Why is that? If we could, and according to the Public Works now, because of Measure W and because of the stormwater safe and clean program, we capture over 35–40% of the stormwater at every storm event like this. But it's not enough. I mean, so much of it is at the time that, you know, and the concept has changed. Clean water, dirty water, all water is precious now, and somehow water supply and water quality are again two sides of the same coin. If we are able to use every drop of water and clean it, then we have bigger supply. So the problems are not having a permeable infrastructure of, again, runoff from irrigation and using, what is DDT, I think, stays in the water for 100 years. And we used it for such a long time for agriculture and whatever else. So, so that is another, not maintaining our existing infrastructure is another issue. And the fact that there is not enough water, and state of California has the wrong amount of water at the wrong place at the wrong time, right? I mean, in the north, you have all this water throughout the wet season, and in the south, you don't have enough, and how do you then, and then water becomes really a political issue, because there's I think it's JFK that said, water, whoever resolves the issue of water in California deserves 2 Nobel Prizes, one for science and one for politics. and it's really becomes more than that, and the kind of legislation that is passing, and the kind of regulations that are passed. Like, for example, to the Water Quality Control Board, for the longest time, they were like penalizing cities that are exceeding their the contaminants. Okay, and then we said, okay, let's have best management practices. Maybe we give credit to some cities that really clean their water, but not all of it, but they try to have best management practices. If you do that, you are one step ahead of the game. Otherwise, then you're going to file a lawsuit against the city, and then it's going to get somehow caught in some court. The water quality is not going to get better. So this progress of seeing that, yes, there is an answer, which is the heart of what I wanted, the message that I want to have, that yes, there is progress, but it's not a one-night deal, and it's not going to happen that fast. And on the way, how we can do things that is going to help that process. So, again, going back, runoff, not having permeable infrastructure, can we change the infrastructure? Every time something breaks, if we build it, can we build it differently? And then again, rules and regulations. So, did I answer your question? It's
yes.
More than one thing, yeah.
Who's paying? Consumers or government?
Yes, of course, yeah.
to say.
Sure.
You almost touched the question I'm
Yes.
asking. As far as the groundwater contamination, I know it's been really bad in 70s and 80s, and we got all these regulations in place and the penalties for whoever doesn't follow the regulations. I wonder, is there any data that makes, to see if the groundwater contamination become less, being saying it's a better water now than it used to be 10 years ago, 5 years ago?
Well, I don't think our practices has changed to make water better, but I think that this money was spent for the cleanup. In San Fernando Valley, I mean, all this contaminated water that, groundwater that came out of, again, the aerospace experiments that they have done in 50s and 60s. The cleanup, and they spent so much money and it is in the process, and these very contaminated waters, groundwaters, are going to be used for irrigation. In some cases, if it's tertiary, the cleaned up water, it can be used even for,
Is there any progress towards the positive
yes.
during this,
Yes.
all this regulation happening?
Yes,
That was
yes,
my
there is.
question.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. We try.
I understand, yeah, but do we see the data? Do we see the data that become better?
Definitely. I can, if you, I can give you some info on that, because water quality control boards, that's what they do.
Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you so much to our keynote, Maria Mehranian. We're just going to reward you with something. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And we also have a small,
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Thank you. Was it? All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, that's our keynote presentation there. That's okay. All right. So let's silence our phones and centrifuges and get ready, because now we're going to hear from Dan Culhaupt, the Vice President of Regulatory and Legal Affairs at John Paul Mitchell Systems and the President of the Board of Directors for the Independent Beauty Association. Dan is a Southern California native who attended UC Santa Barbara, where he obtained a BA in International Relations. He also attended the John Marshall Law School, now the University of Illinois Chicago, where he received his JD. But he came back, so we forgive him. He has been a licensed attorney in California since 1996. Dan started his career at Herbalife International, working on dietary supplement registrations for Europe and Asia. He then oversaw EU regulatory compliance for Herbalife's personal care products and eventually moved into its international development team, working on the opening of new markets such as Croatia, Morocco, and Latvia. Dan then moved to Murad, where he was a manager in the international group. After that, he worked at Nestle USA in its emerging markets division, then moved to Gunther Renker as the Director of Regulatory Affairs, where he worked on cosmetic, drug, medical device, and consumer product compliance. He is now at John Paul Mitchell Systems. Please welcome Dan.
Wow, that was, can you hear me? That was like having my whole life just flashed. I appreciate you having me here. I just wanted to start when I was a kid. I told my dad I really wanted to get into recycling. He just said that was rubbish. So now I'm a lawyer. But it kind of talks to the way we think about packaging in not just beauty, but also water bottles, our food products. We just think of it as trash. We have to change our mindset. Everything is a resource. And so we need to think about things in a different way. As consumers, I think everybody here probably used, let's say, maybe 5 personal care products this morning. Use a shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste. You probably used the soap. There's lots of stuff you probably use today. So personal care products are everywhere. So let me get into it. Do I go up or down? That's the question.
We also have a cool sideways.
Sideways?
Sideways.
Somewhere I'll get to it. There we go. Let's go to the next. Okay, is it sideways? We'll go this way.
This way.
It was a test, Dan.
Okay. So we're here to talk
This is
about.
nice.
Okay,
If you hold
I'll just
it
use
this
this
way,
button. I'll keep going forward. And hopefully all of us will too. All right, so the beauty industry has a huge environmental imprint, not as big as, let's say, food products, which we use every day. I mean, everybody thinks of environmental packaging issues, you think of water bottles, right? They're everywhere, you can't get away from them, you see them on the freeway. As you're driving, hopefully none of them took your car out when you were driving here this morning. But there's a tremendous amount of waste created, and the beauty industry is no exception. Without change, landfills will keep on getting filled. We'll have problems with our waste. And it kind of destroys our natural resources, especially when we think about virgin materials, right? So every time we don't recycle that product, we have to go out and find another source for it. And a lot of the packaging comes from petroleum. So every time you use gas, you're also using another resource that also makes plastic. So the real solution has to come from everybody. It has to come from producers like us, or brands like us. We're technically called producers in the regulatory space by all the government agencies. It has to come from regulators. They have to think of solutions too. And it has to come from all of us as consumers. We can't just throw our stuff away. We have to be responsible with it too. So the scope, I used AI to generate some of these images because I didn't want to call out competitors. And this is what AI thought beauty products look like. In some regards they do, but I didn't know everything was just white packaging. That would actually be nice. It's easier to recycle that. And I don't know why I just spit out that little black thing right there, but okay. Packaging volume and materials. So we produce billions of units a year, and we use plastic, we use glass, we use metal, and we use paper. All of those things, we think individually they're easy to recycle, but they're not. In fact, most of these materials just end up in the landfills, as I've been saying, and you never use them again. Hopefully someday that may be a place where we get virgin materials, or who knows. We'll go back to the landfills. And it's not as high impact as food and beverage, but it is significant, so it's a problem we all need to solve. The public itself, they have pushed us in our industry to look at alternatives to plastic, but it's not easy. We've seen people move into aluminum, but guess who uses the most aluminum? It's not personal care, it's beverage. And trying to compete with the big companies in the world, like Pepsi, Coke, it's not easy. But we do need sustainable solutions. We need sustainable design, we need improvements in recycling, and we need consumer education. These are more AI-generated packaging. They really love droppers for some reason. So let's look at the issues we have. So in some ways, the larger the packaging is, the easier it is to recycle. So if you used a shampoo product, it probably comes in a larger bottle. That's good, but guess what? If it had a pump, you can't recycle the pump, more than likely. It's probably made of multi-material. So it probably has some metal. It could have different types of plastic. That makes it hard to recycle. So that's a challenge. Small products are hard to recycle too, because if they're too small, the machines don't accept them. They kind of just spit them out, so they go into the landfill. So even if you have a small glass container, landfill, which is unfortunate. And the problem is we have to make our products look really good. Because do you want to use a product that doesn't look good? I mean, you want to feel as good about that product as you do as it takes care of you. So if it makes you look good, you want that product to look good. If it doesn't look good, you're probably not going to look that good. So that's part of the problem. And as we get into the alternatives, each one creates a different issue. So like bioplastics, those are when you get plastic materials from plants. But the problem with that is you can't mix that with PCR. You don't want to. It's a different story. And the problem is, and I'll get to this later, but regulators want PCR. So you can't use bioplastics. PCR plastic, when you do use it, it's not going to be as nice looking as virgin plastic. It's going to have maybe it has some color in it. Maybe in some cases, like with tubes, it's too brittle if you use too much of it. It creates a package that's too brittle. So it's not, the functionality disappears. Glass, how many people use glass containers in their showers? That's brave. I've actually stepped on glass in a shower one time, and it wasn't pleasant. But it wasn't for me breaking, it was the light that broke. But anyway, you don't want to really use dangerous packaging materials in the shower or in the bathroom. Typically people aren't wearing shoes. And then metals are in high demand. I talked about aluminum before. If you try to move into that, it's difficult. It can be, depending on heavy demand, it may be hard to get the aluminum that you need. Okay, now we're going to talk about what the states are doing. So the states are looking for they're creating extended producer responsibility laws, which I'll just call EPR. And their goal is to basically take the burden off the municipalities and put it on the producers. So the reason behind that is municipalities, how many people here have recycling? Okay, there's some that don't. And part of the problem is municipalities don't have a lot of money. They can't invest in the infrastructure. So someone had the idea, let's have the producers pay fees so we can get all municipalities up to speed. And it costs us more, but at the end of the day, the benefit of that is we need PCR material. So if we have a full cycle of it as industry, then it makes it easier for us to find the raw materials to use in our packaging. Otherwise, if no one's recycling, we've got no PCR. So, I just want to also talk about the other idea behind EPR is that consumer education will be enhanced. So there's going to be more spent on making sure the public is aware of what they need to do and how they need to recycle. I wish just everybody could throw stuff in a bin and it would automatically sort and you wouldn't have to think about it, but unfortunately we still do. Okay. So there's all types of EPR legislation, and unfortunately there's no federal agency that cares, unfortunately. The EPA was not assigned to deal with packaging. The FDA doesn't deal with packaging, they deal with the goop inside your product. So what we're gonna eventually have is 50 state laws on packaging waste, which, keeps me in business. I have to say, it's like, if you can't have regulatory, you're gonna have a challenge trying to be compliant for every state in this country. Maybe if anybody wants to invest in a lawsuit to challenge that on the Commerce Clause, let me know. But in any event, it will be a challenge. So the EU has had EPR laws for decades, and they're really advanced in that. But the US is just starting to get into this. So Oregon, California, Washington all have EPR laws, Colorado, Minnesota, Maine, Vermont. And the ones I'm talking about here really impact personal care products. A lot of them go into other products like food and beverage, and they haven't tapped into personal care yet. But one of the things they require, and it's good and bad, they require a professional responsibility organization or a stewardship organization to be set up. It's kind of a middleman. It's kind of a quasi-government agency. So it's like this blend between a government agency and the producers. And what they do is they negotiate. They're kind of the lawyers. No, they're the mediators between the government and the producers. So they're creating these, and it's kind of weird. They don't really represent the producers, and they don't really represent the government. So it's kind of hard to understand if we're getting the best solution overall. But at least it makes my job a little bit easier, because they do the heavy lifting in terms of what we have to report. So just keep that in mind. I'll talk about pros. I'm not talking about athletes. I'm talking about EPR plastic waste. And then just to give you another difference is California, which didn't actually have the first EPR law, by the way, but they actually have requirements for us that we have to look at our 2023 packaging and report. In fact, it's due today. So if you have packaging, report today. If you did, you're gonna be in trouble. Kidding. They'll allow you to get in. But they're gonna look at our 2023 numbers, and believe me, it's not easy for everybody to go back 2 years and look at what you were producing back then, because not everybody's tracking their packaging from back then. So they're gonna use those 2023 numbers to give you targets for 2032. I don't even know how that's gonna work. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And California, by far, had the most categories of materials, 95 materials that you have to keep track of. I'd say about 20 of them apply to personal care products, and good luck if you're in other industries and you have to deal with the other ones. I don't envy you at all, but you have to report on it. Okay, just go back to something. When these laws are created, they're not thinking about personal care products, they're thinking about this simple packaging right here. I used to work at Nestle, and water bottles used to be solid. Now when you get them, they're like, I can't even hold them, they fall apart in my hand. And that's because they've been moving to use less plastic in their packaging too. And guess what, they even have to reduce it more. I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, who knows? I mean, I use water bottles myself, like the permanent ones that you can refill, but I don't know what they're gonna do. So each state has slightly different requirements, which makes it a little bit challenging. It's good that when you have a pro, by the way, let me go back to the pro. The pro actually is gonna be the same one in all the states, the Circular Action Alliance. And that makes it easier for us because we just deal with one entity in all the states. If it stays that way, it'll be fantastic. If it doesn't, I need more people in my department. But one of the things if you have to keep in mind is you're gonna need third-party software if you can't do it internally to manage this. Because if you go into all the different components and all the different weights of your products, you have to track it very, very closely. So keep that in mind if you have a brand, even if it's not personal care. They also want to incentivize eco-modulation, which is basically reducing your plastic use, your packaging use, and hopefully you'll receive fewer fees or fines in the future. And one other thing, they're trying to create more raw materials, as I said before, for the industry. Now, just quickly, I'm going to go over this because I think we have a little more time, but I just want to go over the different states and why this is such a challenge. So Washington, they wanted, so it's not necessarily a pure EPR law. What they did there was trying to encourage a market for PCR. So every certain period, you have to increase your PCR packaging in your products by a certain percent. So 2015, you had to have at least 15% PCR in your entire packaging portfolio. It's not easy. You have to incorporate it. Just to make a personal care product, every time you change your packaging, you have to go through stability testing. So that means you have to test your product for at least 3 months in high heat and hope it doesn't fail. If it fails, you're going back to the drawing board. So by 2031, your packaging has to have at least 50% PCR. And that's not easy. Like I said before, tubes, if you use more than 25%, the functionality of that tube degrades. And more than likely, it's going to just crack. And the customers don't like cracking tubes. Trust me, because they only want one. They just want to squeeze it, product comes out. If it comes out in multiple places, it's game over. They may not use your product again. So think about that. They have a bad experience. They also are incorporating a true PCR law, but that will be later. Oregon was the first one to require us to report, and we reported back in March. We've already paid fees for that program. Fortunately, our fees weren't as big as like the food companies and the other large consumer product companies. They have 60 categories of materials that you have to report on. But the good news is, if you're small, you don't have to report. If you're a small business under 5 million, don't worry about it. If you're above 5 million, then go back under 5 million. No, I'm kidding. But it is kind of an interesting threshold. Colorado, they had their first registration in July. So if anybody has a product, make sure you go back and register. They will accept it. They may slap your wrist a little bit, but they want you to comply. So if you haven't complied yet, do it now. And they're covering 61 categories. So you can see those slight variations and how do you manage those in the systems that you use to track. And if you're below 5.6 million in Oregon, you're considered you don't have to report. So you're a small business. So the variation, you know, it's hard to keep track of all these things. Minnesota has a new law, and you're going to have to join the PRO soon. And the one thing that's unique about them, and also California too, they're trying to push to recyclability for your packaging, reusability, and compostability. So those are challenges, and I'll talk about those in a second. New Jersey, like the place where syringes were found on the beach in the old days, they've gotten the message too. But for us, fortunately, personal care products were exempt. So we didn't have to report, but we had to register. Don't ask me why. Maybe it's for future legislation. Maine has one. I won't get into too much detail on that. But just to note that they're moving very quickly, so fast that if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss the deadlines. Because you have to join a PRO, and within, I think it's 6 months, you got to report. So that's pretty fast for an EPR law. Maryland also has a EPR law that requires a PRO too, and you'll have to report plans by 2026. So these are all moving really quickly. It's hard to stay on top of it, but you got to do the best you can. So here are the sustainability options. Everybody thinks aluminum, right? I talked about that. And you see products now in aluminum, which is great, but they don't work for everything. This is a jar. It's kind of a hot fill or a warm fill, so that means that it's a thicker product. It's not going to leak out to the side like a liquid would. I mean, I wouldn't put a shampoo in there, unless, you know, you want most of it just to fall out. And plus, in the shower, that's not an easy thing to use. Let me open my jar as the water's hitting me in the face. Let's see, so sustainable beauty packaging, we're looking at biodegradability, recyclability, refillable products, and reusable packaging. So each one has its challenge. Biodegradability and compostability are the hardest. And that's because the legislators really made it hard to fill those categories, because those packages have to degrade within a year. And the other problem with it, and in California they're moving to the product inside has to be organic. So if it's not organic, why even bother? So if you're thinking about it, I recommend avoiding it at all possible. So I'm going over time. Let me just get into a couple more issues we have. Recyclable packaging has to be certified by a third party, because any little thing you do, ink, labeling, color that you put in your packaging can impact the recyclability of your product. The size is an issue too. If it can't be received, then it's not going to be recycled. And keep in mind, the FTC requires at least 60% of the municipal waste stream. People have to be able to receive it in order for it to be recycled, or to make that claim. Lots of challenges out there. I hate to be a packaging engineer. And I'm sorry about this. This is AI thinking. I said I need a contaminated product. Like, this is the worst I've ever seen. Although I have seen pictures and some complaints that have been really bad. But this is like an over-exaggeration of how bad it can get. But just for reusable, refillable packaging, there's 3 different types. There's, you return your package to the producer. That's not an easy thing to do, because, you know, are you gonna remember, it's hard enough for us to take our grocery bags to the store. Are you gonna remember to take your personal care products to the store? It's a challenge. And then reuse, refill at retailer. If you take it in, refill it there, how are they gonna keep that much bulk of every product in the store? That's a huge challenge. You go to like Whole Foods, they have all those bulk bins. You use bags or use plastic, there are plastic bags for that. But if you try to keep that much liquid in the store, that's a challenge too. You can't do it with powders. You can't do it with colored cosmetics. And then refill by consumer. Depending on where that product is, it's not the easiest thing. If it's in the shower, lots of moisture, lots of humidity, being exposed, you're going to have eventually contamination or bacterial growth. I don't care how clean your shower may be, but it's a huge potential. And then reusable made containers, you make like a nice big jar. People can just put in the product again in a much smaller packaging dispenser, and it looks nice still, but it's not as much. You're not sending that big packet again. Okay, challenges. I've kind of been talking about this. There's always challenges. But I've kind of been talking about this already, so I'm going to skip it since we're running out of time and talk about the future. So, what I need you to do, because you guys are the problem solvers, scientists and engineers are the problem solvers, Look, I tried to be an engineer at UCSB, but then I realized physics did not like me. So then I went to international relations. But, and also volleyball took a lot of my time too. But joint trade associations like the IBA, the Consumer Retail Packaging Associations, there's lots of associations that can use your help. You need people who can come up with ideas and also are able to speak to legislators. Challenge your packaging vendors. You know, make them come up with alternatives. And if you can't find it, there's lots of, I'll say the next thing, attend trade shows. There's lots of trade shows where you can find alternative packaging. And lastly, advocate with the legislators. Because the thing they think about is that water bottle. They don't think about all the different sizes of personal care products we have. They think it's easy. I'm like, it's not easy. Trust me. When you ship a product overseas and it arrives overseas and all of a sudden it's sucked in, your instinct as a brand is, hey, I want to make that product, I want to make that packaging thicker so it doesn't cave in, right? So that's the challenges we have. Anyway, I'll stop it there for questions. I can go a little more? Okay. It says 23. Okay, that's fine. All right. So as you can see, the impact of EPR is to really get everybody motivated to think about recycling in a different way. I'm hoping that it'll also improve technology for recycling because the sorters need to be better at handling smaller items. And just to give you an example, there was a company that was moving to glass. And they said, hey, glass is fantastic, it's recyclable. Guess what, when they filed their EPR filing, they found out that glass really weighs a lot. So when you look at the EPR regulations, they're really driven by weight. And so they didn't realize how much they were gonna have to pay in fees. So now they're rethinking the whole use of glass because it's a weight-based system as well as a volume system. So when you think about the challenges we have, that's another thing. And they didn't think, again, they weren't thinking about personal care products. The other thing is there's going to be lots of opportunities in sustainability. And if you have any ideas for a new business, a new company, think about packaging. Think about how you can make better packaging. There's lots of opportunities. We really need more packaging engineers out there. It's really devoid. We have lots of chemists, which is good, but we need more packaging engineers. And the startup brands, how many people have seen like bar shampoos and you'll see like powder stuff? I mean, those are the little innovations that are coming in, but again, you know, while they'll address the impact, especially of shipping, they're not always going to be recyclable products because of the limitations on the size if we don't address that. Path forward. What do I see? Honestly, I see the day where we have standardized packaging, where you have to use the same types of bottles, the same types of tubes or whatever, because if you don't, it's just going to be, we're just going to continue that way. So that's what I see. I see standardization where you don't have a lot of choices as a brand, and you're going to have to make up for that with your label. That's what I see. It's just potentially easier, unless someone comes up with a way to make recycling plastic and reusing it a lot easier. If we can do that, that's a ball game changer right there, and you'll be a billionaire. Anybody want to be a billionaire? So that's it. Any questions? Yeah.
So I keep seeing a lot of articles about plastic decomposing bacteria. Is that a real thing, or is it just like a clickbait articles that I keep seeing in the news?
It's an emerging thing. So it could be real, but the question is, I don't know if it will deal with every single type of plastic. So you have PET, PP, HDP, LDP. I don't know if the bacteria would take care of all those different elements, but if it does, I would be so happy. Trust me. But I just don't know if it's probably way too early to figure out if it's viable. Any other questions?
Is there time for one more? I have one quick question.
Sure.
After all this, I should ask you this question. Is it getting better? Number one question. And number two is, in California, is California compared to other states better in environmental movement helps you or hurts you? Because there's a huge environmental movement we know in California, both in water, air, all of that, and in your industry, I'm sure. How do you see that?
I think it's neither good nor bad. I'm hoping it'll be more good in the long run. Right now, it's like, hey, we're deer in headlights, let's adjust, you know, and we gotta figure out what our next move is. But really, I think overall it'll be better. Because there's a lot of pressure for us to reuse materials, to not have virgin materials in our products. And the new EPR laws really push for more recycling facilities. However, the biggest problem I see is that it's voluntary in terms of consumer recycling. And I think that is where we need to have, okay, we need to find people who don't employ. I hate to say it, but when I was in Italy and I was staying at someone's house, they were adamant. They said, you need to separate your materials. Why? Because the authorities come by and check periodically to make sure you're doing it. And if you're not doing it appropriately, then you get fined. And with the advent of, you know, AI and other technologies, it will be easier for the municipalities to make sure you're actually doing what you're supposed to do. I've heard of people who in some jurisdictions that tried to throw away their recycling in a big plastic bag, you know, because that's how you keep it in your kitchen. And they were fined because they put a plastic bag in their trash. So the only way I really see this working is if there's like a driver, like penalties for the actual company that does it. Oh. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. We're going to hand you
Oh, thank you.
certificates.
Completion?
Somebody wants to
Thank
take
you so
one
much.
of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, please, yeah. It's proof that Dan was here today.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Although
you.
Dan, if you really didn't want that bottle of water, you could have just said so.
Yeah, no, I know. Sorry, I didn't use it, that's the reason. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Now we'll have our first panel discussion, AI-driven disaster detection and recovery. This session brings together a remarkable group of experts, practitioners and researchers who are tackling the most pressing environmental challenges from the ground up. Our panelists include Irfan Usman of Kite Dynamics and Aram Martirosyan of Connect2 Communications. Due to unforeseen circumstances, Jay Theodore of Estrie can no longer join us today. The discussion will be moderated by Serge Adamian of Hydrogenian H2Go Armenia. Thank you, Serge. Serge is the founder of Hydrogenian, specializing in electrolyzers, carbon capture, and high-value CO2-derived products. He previously led EcoTrade, advising on commercial-scale renewable energy products, and managed SunChiller, there's no room for me, guys, where he launched several award-winning large solar thermal installations. Earlier, he founded H2 Economy and SolarN International Corporation, advancing hydrogen fuel cells, solar thermal systems, software development, and wind farm assessments in the U.S. and Armenia. Adamian has also worked with the U.S. Expert Council for Renewable Energy, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and Parsons. He has been a consultant to USAID, the U.S. Department of Energy's National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and Sandia National Laboratories, and has advised foreign governments on renewable energy policy. He has a BS in civil engineering and MS in engineering focused on renewable engineering and an MBA. He's a California registered professional engineer and a certified energy manager. Adamian has authored multiple technical publications. I think you've done enough, Serge, don't you? And served in leadership roles with the Association of Energy Engineers, the Armenian Engineers and Scientists of America, REINet, and the Armenian Development Agency. Serge will now moderate our panel.
Thank you for introduction, Shanti. We have an interesting panel today. The area of conversation is a little bit out of my purview, but I'll try to do my best. Let me introduce the panelists today. Next to me is Irfan Usman. He is CIO and co-founder of Kite. Irfan has spent a lifetime making things fly, using everything from magnetic fields to fluids. At the University of British Columbia, he spent 12 years inventing and building precision magnetic levitation systems for the likes of Bosch, Okamoto, and KLA Tanker. etc. in the semiconductor industry, also helping spawn a general-purpose fabrication maglev company called Planner Motor, before turning his attention to Virgin Hyperloop. At Virgin Hyperloop, he was the primary inventor of the levitation and guidance systems, and ran the levitation and flight controls teams to multiple successful flight demonstrations, securing over $500 million in milestone-based funding. But his first love in flight has always been drones, since he and one of his co-founders started building them with scrap parts in high school. So he decided to start Kyle Dynamics, an aerial robotics company with applications in precision logistics, infrastructure maintenance, and disaster and emergency response. Next I'm going to introduce our second panelist, Aram Termarkiosyan, Chief Information Officer and co-founder of Connect2. Aram is a visionary technology leader with more than 25 years of experience in software engineering, telecommunications, and AI-driven systems integration. As CIO and co-founder of Connect2, he has directed the development of advanced AI-based communication, CRM, and infrastructure solutions serving clients across multiple industries, including telecom, healthcare, automotive, and defense. Aram is the creator of Forest Guard, an innovative IoT-based environmental monitoring system designed to direct illegal logging, wildfire activity, and heat anomalies through AI-powered acoustic and thermal analysis. This system represents a breakthrough in sustainable technology, aligning with global climate action and disaster prevention efforts. In addition, Aram leads the development of Aula, a unified AI-powered business automation platform built to streamline operations across multiple domains. Aula combines CRM and sales automation, HR and employee performance management, integrated communications, billing and invoicing, and AI-powered knowledge base. Its built-in AI agents can autonomously handle multi-step workflows, allowing teams to focus on strategy and resilience in disaster situations. Aula provides real-time visibility and intelligent automation across departments, helping organizations stay agile, efficient, and coordinated during both preparation and recovery phases. Aram holds an MBA from Pepperdine University and a BS in Computer Science and Engineering from UCLA, along with multiple professional certifications in data science, network security, and enterprise software development. It's quite a pedigree.
This is what happens when your wife wants you. But most importantly, I was a past president of ASA and almost 8 years on the board of ASA.
Thank you, Aram, for your service to this organization. So anyway, let's get started. Please spend maximum 2 minutes, because we want to leave some time for Q&A at the end, to answer the following questions. Aram, your Forest Guard IoT system has gained significant recognition for detecting wildfires, illegal logging, and environmental threats. What inspired this innovation, and how do AI and IoT integrate within Forest Guard to create real-time, actionable intelligence and early response and prevention?
Thank you. So, interestingly enough, this project started from ASA. One of our own, Arika Mangan, was consulting to the Ministry of Natural Resources in Armenia, and back then and still now, the illegal logging was a major problem. So he came up with this idea to to acoustically recognize the chainsaw sound to be able to prevent. So he presented that to me, Razmika, Arkanyan, couple, and ASA. And back then, we didn't have engineering department in Armenia. So I decided to create an engineering in Vanadzor, which is the third largest city in Armenia. I think, Eddie, you were there, right? So we got some young engineers and trained them in IoT. And we started with developing that specific sound recognition IoT system. But soon enough we realized once we have those, the communication, we have the IoT devices on the ground, so we decided that we can add multiple sensors on the same and be able to collect both data. This is about 2017. AI is not still as popular as today. So we just collected the data, we were working with this data, and soon enough when the AI started coming up, we figured out that the AI is a perfect tool to analyze all this data, and not only recognize the patterns of wildfires or any dangers that's going on, or even acoustic understanding if there's a chainsaw or a campfire or something is around. It's basically, when you have enough data, you can come up with the preventing it. Basically, understanding that this might happen and alerting the possibilities before the wildfires or things, any other dangerous situation arise. So challenges of that is basically, so we had to implement, so you always have this sensors in a forest, so you don't want to go every time and change the batteries on it and things like that. So you have to have a solar power. Even that is not enough, as we all know, the AI on the edge, even if you use even lightweight kind of chipsets and stuff, still it's very power hungry. So the power management of these devices was a major issue. Collecting the data, so you have to have a multi-path environment where you collect this data, because so we kind of sign up with the radio technology called LoRa, and that's basically transmits very small packets but very long distances, very fast. So that was the, but you have to basically then do some processing on the edge, AI processing, and then collect all the important data and send it back in for more processing. So those are the challenges. But then again, that raises another issue. You have to synchronize all of this and make sure that the all data comes at the same time. They have the right timestamp on it, and that's another challenge that we're dealing with. And it's a lot of problems that we had to solve to get to this point.
Thank you. It's important that we connected all those dots. Irfan, given your experience in AI, robotics, and data engineering, what are the biggest challenges in processing diverse and complex data sources from drones, ground sensors, robotics platforms, and satellite feeds to generate rapid and reliable disaster predictions?
Yeah, shockingly, as a technologist, I thought the problem was going to be mostly technology. It turns out it's people and organizations. So I had hoped it would be physics, but it's really just trying to get multiple heterogeneous organizations to talk to each other at all. So as an example, one of our partners recently was deployed on the Kerrville County, Texas floods. There was such a diverse set of ERTs and fire departments and multiple teams trying to work together to solve this one problem. Each of them had multiple different levels of budget devoted to robotics and drone ISR, so that's kind of what we do. No one knew what everyone had, and everyone had a very different idea of what the policies of the airspace were. So for example, our partner was not allowed to deploy a very large, capable VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing drone, because of a noise ordinance law that existed for a local municipality that no longer existed because of the flood. So most of our issues actually kind of getting our technology out into the world have been trying to, one, convince all of these like local partners that one, the technology has value, and second, trying to get everyone educated on like what the actual laws and what the actual regulations say on where and how you can deploy these things.
Thank you. The next question is for both of you. We'll start with Aram. Data collaboration is essential for climate resilience, yet most systems still operate independently. What kind of partnerships, data standards, or frameworks do you believe are needed to build open, secure, and interoperable systems for AI-driven disaster management?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we all kind of heard the saying that garbage in, garbage out. That was a long time ago, it's everybody. But this became more important in this AI age. So the AI doesn't distinguish good from bad, right from wrong, whatever you fit it blends that, it analyzes that. So the data becomes much more important now. So you're right. But right now we all kind of develop our own data, and there's no data sharing kind of environment or capabilities today, but definitely we need like a federated source of data sharing, APIs that allow us to share that data, because as AI is data hungry, as much data you fit in, you get better results. And also cleaning that data from right data from wrong data or incorrect data is very, very important, very time consuming. But also when we get into more and more to the precise systems, basically we're having issues filtering the actual signal from the noises. The noise is also making a lot of problem. So there's a lot of work to be done in cleaning the data, and this requires a collaboration. It's very easy it's not very easy, it's easier. You can fit the right data, come up with the right answer. So that part is, but having the data, cleaning that data, that requires a lot of pre-processing. And yeah, there needs to be a collaboration, not just between companies, which we sometimes do, but also it has to be a federated kind of a collaboration worldwide also to have the right data and be able to supply that data to come up with the right answers.
Irfan, do you want me to repeat the question, or?
No, that's I couldn't have said it better myself. I think just to extend that, one of the issues that we're seeing is that in an actual disaster response scenario, the communications in that particular disaster zone are often out. So you have to rely on technologies that have edge compute. And if you have companies basically developing these edge compute nodes, pretty much everybody who's developed anything in embedded hardware or embedded technologies builds and rolls their own. And so because of, again, this heterogeneity of the technology, it's very, very difficult to kind of come to a standardized set where we can publish data from a particular robot, whether it's a drone or a ground robot or a standalone sensor, and have it be ingestible and have kind of like a confidence interval on the validity of that data. So it's kind of intrinsic to the nature of how you respond to a disaster, that you have to have all of these different technologies out in the field. But again, it makes it very, very hard to come up with a standard sort of API for all of these different companies.
It's interesting that this is a good segue to the next question, and Irfan kind of addressed it a little bit. Aram, communication networks are often among the first systems to fail during disasters. How can telecom and AI-driven IoT networks have the architecture to remain resilient, maintain coverage, and support immediate and long-term recovery efforts even when physical infrastructure is disrupted?
That's a good question, but also in a communication, there's always was the need of having the resilient communication. It doesn't matter, like before AI, before IoT, this was communication paths, and so in that regard, we kind of knew what were we doing mostly. So you have multi-path environment, when something fails, you have to have a different way to get into to where you want to get. And in a fiber environment, for a long time, we had this loop fibers going in, the fiber breaks somewhere, you can go the other way, stuff. The razor technology is more resilient, they have multiple paths, multiple frequencies, frequency jumping. Obviously, nowadays the satellite is becoming very important, especially with new technologies that basically get kind of a Wi-Fi kind of technology through the satellite. So that's been done. I think, but we need to work specifically in a disaster time when the fires or a big destruction and stuff. So we should have in these nodes or multiple paths. So that if the fiber fails, if you have fiber obviously if the radio fails, if you satellite and things like that. But then what I was talking about, the issue of synchronizing, because it's very important to get those signals right time, in the right order. Kind of. When it comes to the issue of synchronizing, because obviously the satellite delays are probably kind of, what is that, 520 at least, half a second, and that's huge in the signaling. And then when you get fibers, it's sub 2 milliseconds and things like that. So getting this and organizing the way the signals came in and make sure that they analyze it correctly, that becomes a problem. But it's a solvable problem. It's not as hard as getting the right data in and the right collaborating. Again, the human interaction and the politics that we were talking about, that comes into this. So the politics and getting those done, it's much harder than the technology is.
Thank you. Irfan, drones and autonomous robotic systems increasingly play a critical role in environmental monitoring and rapid disaster assessment. How do you see AI enhancing the coordination, autonomy, and situational awareness of these physical systems in high-risk, low-visibility environments?
Yeah, I would say it's not a nice-to-have function. It is an absolutely required function. Humans are no longer capable of being able to deploy the thousands of nodes of robots and sensors in a way that makes sense in any kind of realistic disaster response scenario. So we have to rely on AI to do at least the planning. So it's 100% required. Down to the robot itself, having the onboard vision systems and perception nodes and things like that for the robot itself, all the way back to kind of the mission planning. So, yeah.
Great, okay. Next question is for both panelists. We'll start with Aram. AI can accelerate detection, but when alerts are automated, errors or false positives can cause panic and misallocated resources. How do you ensure reliability and build trust in automated alerts, especially when human lives, property, and ecosystems are affected?
That's a very good question. So, you're right. The crying wolf, right? We always like, you cry wolf all the time, but they show up, nobody believes it. That's a real thing. So it's very, very important to have these systems minimize. Obviously, it's impossible to completely eliminate, but minimize the false positives. And that's a major issue. And then the AI comes to help, as we said, like Edge AI, pre-processing, sending to the back end and making sure that the rest of the processing also done on a cloud or the back end, and those basically prevent as much as possible. But also, final alarm, I think we talked about the human and AI collaboration. I think the final thing is that the humans have to look over the signals and make sure the final alarm is coming from a human, at this time at least. And that's very important. So we say leave all the processing to the AI, but the human has to be in the loop for making the final decisions, final decisions with that. So basically, as of today, that's the main important, the main way of preventing panic, as we say.
Irfan, do you want me to repeat the question? Or?
No. Yeah, as Aram says, in order to build confidence in any kind of technology, in the early stages, a human in the loop is going to be absolutely necessary. We're seeing this a lot in our kind of defense use cases as well. So you would imagine that we want to get to the point where we have no human in the loop for ISR and for sort of kill use cases. But that's essentially going to be impossible, I think, for the next at least 10 or 15 years. So.
Okay. Next question is for Irfan. Cloud platforms and AI-powered processing pipelines are essential for connecting real-time field data with operational decision makers. How can cloud-based AI tools help governments, agencies, and private organizations prioritize limited resources more effectively during crisis response and recovery?
I think it's another in the arsenal of kind of planning tools. As we mentioned kind of previously though, like this planning has to be done much prior to the disaster itself. At the, on day one of any kind of any disaster of sufficient scale, it's already too late to be able to utilize these cloud-based resources. So all of the pre-planning has to be done much before that. That's where kind of cloud resources come into play. On day 1 through day 7, typically it's going to be edge resources.
Aram, Forest Guard merges hardware, sensors, sound detection, machine learning, and long-range communication. What are the biggest integration challenges you faced when merging AI, IoT, and telecom systems? How can industry work towards smoother interoperability?
Well, yes, we kind of mentioned that. So basically, as you imagine, like all these sensors, like you have different sensors, like let's say image sensors, acoustic sensors, you have the humidity sensors, all the chemical sensors and things like that. They all process the information usually in different times, different delays. So putting all those together and basically doing the edge pre-processing of it, some AI, and making sure everything timely manner and in the right time and right sequence gets to the main decision making. That's the main challenge basically. It's always been a challenge kind of thing. And obviously we talked about that also. That signal comes through different communication channels and another delays there. So synchronization and time synchronization it's the major challenge that we face.
So there's still some work to do in that area.
There's always work to do. I don't think we can ever say we nailed it, but also finding ways to not depend as much as on the timing of the signal and let the AI decide if it was right time and things like that. So that's what we're working on because it's probably that's going to be the next thing to be able to not rely and not confuse the whole system because of some packets were late or later than we expected.
The next question is for both of you. I'll start with Irfan. Looking ahead, how do each of you envision AI's evolving role in disaster preparedness and recovery? Will AI primarily remain a detection tool, or do you see it becoming a collaborative partner shaping long-term environmental resilience strategies?
Absolutely, I see it as a planning tool as well as a response tool. So I think as we get more data sets from disasters where robots and other technologies have been deployed, we're going to continue to learn how effective those technologies have been. And I think over time, we'll get to the point where we can more rapidly deploy the correct resources in the correct places in order to mitigate these disasters.
All right, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, it's a good question. So basically, we kind of mentioned that, but so, I mean, AI is definitely next 2-3 years, it's going to go planning, processing, and also fully decision making. I think we think next couple of years we can handle that 100%. But always the human in the loop, we think it's the the human will add the compassion to the, that's what's important. I mean, we always will have human in it, so that's the way it can never take the human compassion out of the, especially this disaster. But yes, AI will handle A to Z all the way to finally the human compassion.
Can I expand on one more thing? So disaster response using AI is inherently difficult because disasters are rare. So that's one of the fundamental problems that we're finding right now in terms of being able to do this proper logistics planning for deployment to like an earthquake or a flood or a fire. Because they are so rare, those data sets are so small and they're so unique to every area, it's hard to actually kind of build those confidence in those planning tools. So I don't know what the answer for that is yet, but that is one of the major problems that we're gonna have to work on.
Yeah, as we started getting the data, right data, sharing the data, not making, that's going to be the most important to get to the best disaster. And not just recovery or detection, but prevention is the most important. We have to get to prevention. After the fact, we can, but before preventing it is the most important. And I think the AI will get us to get to the prevention as much as possible. We fit it with the right available data.
Shanti, how are you doing time-wise?
We're doing okay.
You're doing okay? So can I ask more questions or are we open to Q&A?
We can have one more question from you.
More questions?
Thank you.
All right. Okay. These questions apply to both of you. I mean, both can answer. And let's start with Irfan. Many AI systems focus on early detection. That's what Aram was talking about. But recovery and long-term rehabilitation often receive less attention. How can AI support post-disaster reconstruction, such as analyzing damage patterns, optimizing rebuilding priorities, or monitoring long-term ecological recovery?
So this would actually have been a perfect question for our missing panelist, Jay from Esri. I think this is much more in his wheelhouse and his technology base. Actually, Aaron, do you want to take this one? I don't know too much.
Go ahead. It's a hard question.
it's a difficult question. I mean, this is kind of what AI is optimal for, so taking past data and doing predictions. So ideally, we have enough sensors out there and we have enough data streams that are valid and well organized that we can actually train these models on doing the type of prediction that Aaron's mentioned. So, and again, Jay from Esri's, email him if you want to have more details.
Yeah, yes, so satellites become more important in this case than the ground, also ground IoT systems. But again, I guess the planning as if we have to replenish the forest and things like that, then we have to, at that point, I think we need the AI to tell us what kind of trees to plant, and so to prevent also the fires in the future. The trees, especially in California, should take less water, be more, provide more kind of better air quality, things like that. So we have to and AI will be a perfect tool to organize all of that and plan, replenish and making sure, because the first time we did it was not right, building the houses and things like that, so in the fires, as many codes are there for fire prevention in the house building stuff, we had disaster fires. It's like, it's amazing this day and age having that kind of fire. I mean, it's crazy. But so the next one, and plan better, and then we rebuild these houses and things like that. So next time it should not happen this way. So it's going to be, the AI can help us basically better construct not just the forest, the houses, and every infrastructure to make sure that these disasters never happen in the future, or if they happen at a much smaller scale.
It's interesting that Maria was talking about the climate change that is happening, and can AI predict 100 mile per hour wind, which we have?
Yeah.
That's a
Probably providing prevention of disaster.
The prediction, we have it. I mean, we have to predict all the winds and directions that they speed right now. But being able to withstand that
Rebound.
and rebound from that, withstand and have the protection in place to stop that and not to, especially when the fire is going on and having the wind at the same time, obviously, it's more disaster. So preventing that and building so that all of those, this will happen in the future, but so making sure that the disasters get to the minimum.
I guess we open to Q&A right now.
Can I steal your microphone?
Sure, I don't think this works very well.
This
One-
one can take this one.
This one, just a moment.
All right, let's do that.
It doesn't.
A question for both gentlemen or AI guys. In this day and age,
Next time will be AI.
Next time we'll have AI panelists.
there you go. Anyway, the question is, with the satellites that we have, the Google Earth we have, why can't we use AI to tell us where there is a small fire starting and right away inform authorities that there is a fire going on before we wait another 24 hours before fire trucks start going?
So inherently, satellites are stuck in the orbits that we put them in. And so there's always going to be a time lag between the most recent valid satellite information and that getting into the hands of like a policy and decision maker. So that's actually where drones come in. Where if we have kind of more preventative drone flights and essentially like these edge compute robots that are kind of out in the world doing their thing, that's a more feasible way to get kind of real-time information versus satellites. Satellites absolutely have their place, but we can't change orbital mechanics. It's very expensive to have them track over single areas very quickly.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can you hear me? It seems like there's going to be, so the challenges I see is you can't just have just one drone, you have to have different types. How many different types do you have to develop just to deal with like one type of, like let's say a fire or the flood you just had? How many different types of drones do you have to engage? Because even that seems like it would be challenging.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So let's maybe talk through like a practical example, right?
Yeah.
So like a fire that kind of bursts out. So you and I were discussing this a little bit beforehand. So you could have a drone that's designed to fly directly into the fire front itself. So I don't know, I'm hoping not too many of you have actually experienced a wildfire in person. But essentially that fire front creates its own weather. It creates essentially almost hurricane. It can create hurricane-like conditions. Developing kind of, I always say like fire bombers and pilots who fly those vehicles are both the bravest and dumbest people I know, because that's one of the most ridiculous environments to have any kind of flying vehicle. So that vehicle itself is going to be rare because it's going to be expensive, heavy, and have a lot of technology on it in order to basically navigate those winds. So you can't only rely on those. You have to have a wider net than just like a few big, heavy drones. So now you're talking about like FPV drones or tethered drones that are spread out in front. These are much cheaper. Well, drones are essentially, and don't tell my co-founders I said this, fairly inefficient at staying aloft. So you have to mix those in with ground robots and other types of ISR and surveillance nodes. You can't do all of this with just like weather balloons in the sky or like little FPV drones. So you're entirely correct. You need a huge variety of these technologies to not just supplement the ERT team in the field, but hopefully get them out of harm's way.
Do we have other questions in the audience?
My question is about you said one of the most difficult parts is like different associations having different budgets for like this problem and how they deal with that. Is that something that companies should be trying to take a step forward in both like data and budgeting, or like the state government or federal government making guidelines first and then companies slowly following those, like previously mentioned in other presentations?
Yeah, I think the government has to step in. It's very hard to, so it has to be some guidelines of sharing this data and making sure that it's going to be not just the state government, but also federal, also worldwide. This is international problem. This is not just a California problem. This is not a U.S. problem. This is a worldwide problem. So we have to have not just the federal government, but also we need to have a worldwide kind of a to step up and come up with some kind of protocols of sharing this data. And I think it's very important for the governments to step up in this issue.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think any private company will have the leverage necessary to kind of bring in together all of these different different agents, right, in the system. I think on top of that, even if a government kind of mandates a particular policy, I don't know if this is going to be shocking, many times that policy is inefficient or foolish. So for example, many fire departments and police departments have a particular budget. So for example, maybe they have $500,000 per department to deploy to a particular drone system or a particular robotic system. Turns out that if you are above about $250K for a particular unit and you lose that unit, you have to file a whole bunch of paperwork all the way up to like state level, right? And that's just like, it's supposed to be a kind of a budget conscious risk assessment policy. What that means is if you buy a drone that's $250,000, you tend to not use it because you don't want to risk it. Right, so no matter what value it provides, no matter what value that technology actually ends up providing, you don't end up deploying. We also see this on the defense side. So the same thing. It's basically if you lose your $250,000 in one drone, you have to report it to general. If you lose your $249,000 drone, you just report it to your like commander. So, yeah.
Yes, thank you. So the U.S. Forest Service has thousands of stations that 24/7 collect temperature, humidity, precipitation, all kinds of information. The problem with those is that it takes months for them to release that information because of a lot of things that they do. So my one question is, how do they share that information? And two, are they willing to share that real-time information? Because I'm wondering if it's a lot cheaper than $250,000 drone. Because they already exist. They have been there at least for 100 years. And there are like thousands of those stations. I know I've worked with some of that information, but are they willing to share that information? I think the ones that I know of are the U.S. Forest Service information and data of those stations.
I think it's more technical problem that it's not real time, they're not sharing it, because behind of those sensors is probably old kind of a technology sitting there and just collecting and not using AI and just probably developing those. I don't know, I'm just thinking it's more, could be a technical issue, because nowadays once you have the sensor, and that's a very good things that we have already. So if they allow upgrade of those systems, they can be real time for sure. So, but because the technology behind it is developed probably 50 years ago or something like that, it still has a mainframe kind of technology. That could be the problem.
Some are over 100 years old.
Yeah. But they could be useful. They could be useful if behind that there is a good technology, real-time processing technology, and it can be useful, and because you can also add more newer ones. And, yeah, but the real-time, that's what you need. Exactly, it takes months or something, because it's the old machine sitting in the back and processing it with old technology.
I think we have one more.
Last one. How about create AI monitored towers all around the forest lines, so the minute they see a fire, they're gonna report it to the authorities and done with it, so we don't have to use satellites with the old information.
I think that's Arab's technology.
So we have that. We also have that deployed in the Army. So you put a tower, you put a thermal camera on top of it, and so it's spins around and finds out that you can find out the fire that's size of the tennis ball before they, so that's a technology, but it's expensive also because those thermal cameras start from $50,000 to $250,000. But obviously it's nothing compared to losing the whole forest.
After the fact, it's much more expensive than beforehand.
So prevention is less expensive, even though the equipment seems to be. So that convincing the government to spend 150, 200,000, it's the problem. So, but technology is there, it's been tested, it's been done.
What is the range of those cameras?
It can be 25 kilometers at least radius, so you can go 50 kilometers. If you plant it in the right location where you have visibility. And then you send drones to check it out before you send the whole army to stop a tennis ball size of fire. Obviously, you have to use multitudes of technologies. And then a small drone can go in and drop small water or whatever that wet thing is on the fire. And that's
Super cheap, 249,000.
Yes.
So, thank you so much. I'm sorry I arrived late. I'm actually a speaker after lunch. And I'm actually not talking about forest fires. It's one of the things our lab works with. But, and we work closely with folks on this whole predictive issue. And you do all this work predicting soil moisture and fuels and things like that. And the part to remember is that 90% of these fires are started either intentionally or by humans. And humans are not necessarily picking the most vulnerable locations. They have different motivations for doing that. So we actually can get a handle on naturally occurring fires because we have lots of data on wind, we have lots of data on soil moisture, the fuels are obvious. You do have this problem where it's a very, very large distribution of land and it takes some number of hours to move folks around. But your comment that all fires start the size of a tennis ball, so you have this delta of when it's discovered versus when it's approached. But the predictive models, it's hard to predict human behavior like that. We can predict nature. And we're going to talk about this in the keynote address, this issue, folks are going to be urban ecology. The issue here is that we have a combined reality, one of which follows a sort of rules of predictability, which is natural processes. And then the other is the human factor, which is incredibly difficult, but incredibly interesting too. But we tend to forget when we talk about forest fires, what percentage of them, or wildfires, or especially the wildland urban interface, what percentage of those are started intentionally or accidentally by humans, the vast majority.
Does that stat include fire set by PG&E?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
Thank you for the suspense. We can't wait for your talk. I'd like to recognize
Forest fires and water.
One moment.
The community that put this together and Araxia who helped us out putting together this panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, yeah.
You did it, yeah. Araxia, didn't after Kusatsu to like Arami hit the course on the
Those are great questions and great. You know, I don't work in the drone world. I'm working on but you're thinking about separating satellites. It's a vast area. And the comment about rare events, it's rare events. It's not something that lasts, you know, that you can parameters around. It's just events. And the January events, there's nothing we could have done ahead of time that would have changed the outcome. And now we've always increased zone zero, and this stuff we're talking about instituting. You know, we have data again, I'm not going to talk about this. Let's talk today, I don't have to.
He's at
alternative medicine hayastanu.
Yes, thank you. That's the whole point. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's fine. My PhD's in animal behavior. That's where I started out. And I've written an animal consciousness and animal language. I worked with Don Griffin for many years. Fellow discovered echolocation in bats. And we're trying to look at communication systems in honeybees. And holy dopamine receptors back, man. Right.
I'm a neuroimaging engineer. Our president is a neuroscientist.
We've replaced nicotine with reels on Facebook.
Very specifically
So you're accountant for they're struggling now with their external research. It's just well, I want to hear it. And there you go. Look at our overhead rates. That's right. It's really not because you know, I'm recruited here from Boston and then at a school in Loyola America, which is just moved up to an R2. So I run a research program. My salary is paid by the university, so I get our senior salary. My staff is also money, and for the first 15 years, we've been doing fine. I got a raise about not as much as other labs, like $1 million a year. But this year, for the first time, grants pulled back, and we ended up in the red. Grants canceled, programs canceled. Because were you funded up by NIH? Is that where your work funding comes from? Yeah, so we're NSF. NIH went up now, but that's the first time in my whole career on the, not on the medical. Do you know Joel Labrie? He studies addiction at LMU and has gotten he was really one of our few NIH awardees. He works on the behavioral side. Interesting. It's only 2 or 3 people. Yes. It's been fun. As I said, I came from the East Coast. I've been there about 15 years. I'll finish my career there. Looking close to 70. So. Where do you live? Oh, that's lovely too. Yes, just go to the edges. Oh, yeah, the Angeles National Forest is my favorite place to be on weekends. Smarts with Tennessee. Oh, nice. Yeah, I'd love to continue the conversation. And so, where is he located? We used to have office space at the incubator for 2 years, and so I was trying. When I first came here, the university was very entrepreneurial, and so I said, look, LMU needs to be there. So I paid for the rent for 2 years out of my budget, and I said, look guys, you pick it up and really, because not only did I have to pay for the rent, but I had to have a staff member. Lacey's amazing. Yes, yes. No, I hear you. These are crazy times. Yes. Well, it's funny, that's really the theme of my conversation today is resilience. Because as you age, as I said, I'm getting close to 70, I don't even know how to use the tools that the postdocs who I work with have. And so I can either try to learn those tools at 68 years of age, or I can do what I do well, having been in the business for 40 years, and serve as a mentor, and manage grants, and raise money, and work in public. And I was told early on, the mental behavior work you're doing is great. And this was back in the 80s, no one's ever going to hire you if you say you study it. We're not ready. So I moved to conservation biology, and then into anthropology. Yes, let's take a look at that now.
I don't want to miss it. I've heard this one. Let's grab lunch. Right, so you see, like, have that
It's like 3 layers and it bubbles up. This is And I'm not worried.
Yeah, I think so. We will lower the.
Yes, yes.
I love that. I think it's the lamp. Single lamp has too many hours.
Was that helpful?
Yeah.
We're trying to tune the fact that it's
lamp hours.
Is this helpful?
That's supposed to be black, isn't it?
It is black.
Aha. Okay.
See, that's our clue, because
Yeah, that's the best we can do. That's not even
That's funny, yeah, it's all purple. No, the green is right. The green is right. Yeah, and I'm in a college, so I usually, have some kind of a soft green. Supposed to be green.
That's a
You know what? It's because his slides are
Aspect ratio.
So it's just always getting
Okay, that's.
Most of these old projectors are just so animation.
Okay, let's try that. Yeah, so which one did you plug it into? Why is it not
Ja, jag avfall.
Is this you, Mark? I think it's actually telling me if there's a signal.
Well, the computer thinks it's a signal because it's gone into the shared screen mode. Okay, so the computer seems
HDMI.
I also brought my computer.
That's nice.
Let's see, it's on there. This is, now, okay, now it's.
Oh my God, that's
Look at how beautiful that is.
Get through the rest of the conference. What's the meaning? Oh, it's in this is there's like an immediate resolution.
So you're a member, are you part of?
The black apple is the upper.
Yeah, I
I'm gonna check it out. Sorry to interrupt. Private conversation.
You're still not seeing the upper.
John composta por gostar na por
Are you part of, I'm a member, so yeah. Yeah.
On the team or
No, I'll think about that. Yeah, I guess.
I make sure something briefly.
Interesting, I went to grad school with one of the other students. So that's how we got her.
Yeah.
topic you got?
The pursuit of perfection. So some materials
You're like here to support the team and
This is treatment point, right? One of the questions is
like if it hits
Working at this
how would you say like the investor
I'm not familiar with
So what motivated you to your pilot?
When I was flying,
Are you a firefighter?
You're right.
I just believe that what is the major
What do you think? I think like if you, it sounds like what you want to do. I'm a scientist, but I also interface a lot with like innovation. So I think that your next step would probably be to talk to like what you said, like what the part of your talk about kind of like a not a business like that. Your product is forward. So you probably
Hello.
How are you? Eric Strauss.
Hi, Eric.
What is your field of?
Dynamic control systems.
Make, no, well, the same.
There's been a lot of change in your career, hasn't there?
Oh, yeah.
Think about the control systems that would have been in the 70s or late 60s, all analog systems.
It's all computers, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm in the horizon of 70, so I can,
Things have changed.
yes.
Fast.
Are you in the work zone, you know?
Now this?
And then, you know, different businesses, oh, that caused a lot of it, it's the connections, networking. You go to a bunch of people, I think Pasadena has like that.
You live in Glendale?
Local area?
Well, I live down in the beach cities, Renel Segundo.
Do you know who he is?
No.
He's the creator of architecture and science
I guess like
of this country. So they dragged me into it. And I'm still coming every event.
Well, given what's happening in our country right now, I think I don't think we could have imagined how important it is to celebrate our identity, because our identities are being crushed.
I come more from
Right? It's just, it's something I never thought would happen. You know?
When you say our, which
Well, I think the idea, our ethnic identities.
Armenian?
Armenians.
Yesterday we were at this Armenian architecture.
Yep.
Were you there yesterday?
No.
They are doing majestic work there too, by the way. They're documenting all these Armenian churches and cathedrals and all that all over. You should become a member of it. Jora is their
It was one of the earliest communities to adopt Christianity.
that might be, like, you can apply as sort of like programs, which you can learn about, like, because you
Now,
might
my
have
history,
different,
my father's grandfather escaped Eastern Russia in the early 30s as a result of movement of communism. My mother's family is German and escaped Nazism in the early 30s.
Which one is Armenian?
No, neither's Armenian. We're German and Russian. But just the fact that you have an association where your identity is recognized, as well as your social, as well as your
my family. During the massacre, Armenian genocide, they went to Russia. My 3 siblings were born there. And then Stalin said, get the hell out of here or else.
Yes.
So they went back to Iran. I was born in Iran by mistake. And they tried to get rid of me, they could not.
Wow. No, we just...
Between me and my eldest, youngest sibling was 14 years from an 18-year mistake.
Well, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're here.
Okay.
You're still a
I
mistake.
think that's one of the most the HEAL LA program.
Love it. Let me get my Coke then. Right behind you. Coke. Coke.
Yeah.
You know, I was driving over here this morning, and maybe something about the rain that kind of, there's a sort of laundering to it, and I was sort of thinking, who's going to be in the audience today? And then I thought, who's not here today? Because their grandfather or great-grandfather was lost in the Armenian genocide or the Holocaust. Who's not here? 3 generations later. What have we lost? What intellectual capacity? What humanity? It's just crazy stuff. And I feel blessed to have lived through the life I did. I was born, it's such that I was too young for the Vietnam War and too old for.
I got out of it too. I didn't serve.
Yeah. But my dad was wounded in 2 wars. Wounded in the Second World War and then wounded during the Vietnam conflict. 34 surgeries. He's going to be 100 in a couple of months.
Still alive? I'm breaking the record. How old do you think I am? How young do you think I am?
Well, I think you're probably in your late 70s. More? I'm not gonna guess.
Yeah, that's all right, I've taken it.
82. 84. 86. 88.
87.
I did my postdoctoral work with Donald Griffin, who was in his early 90s at that point. And he was known as, he discovered echolocation in bats in 1932, but then was working in animal consciousness. One fascinating guy. And he was active until 3 months before he died. Publishing, writing, in the field.
That's what they should work is instead of this AI, it's probability.
Well, AI is only as good as the human thoughts that the machine is scraping from, right?
You never smoke? No, that's why.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
But I don't drink either.
Which is amazing for your generation. Even when I was growing up, smoking cigarettes was part of the transition to adulthood. I tried it when I was 14, it made me nauseated. But why would you do this to your body?
I grew up in a smoking household, so I never smoked.
Yeah, I never smoked.
Started when I was young.
So which
I don't
material
drink.
is like the cigarette made of? Like you're
Wow,
saying
that's
that like
insane. That's like a 15-year increase in lifespan just from not smoking.
Yes. You know, that 40-year Framingham heart study that was done would really have most of our long-term data on human health, at least, going back a few years. The hard part was to figure out everything other than smoking because it was such a big overlay in the data. It's hard to find any nurses that didn't smoke.
but also everything else.
Right. Well, now we're living long enough to get the behavioral diseases that smoking was killing us earlier for. Diabetes, type 2,
Like what makes
arteriosclerosis.
I'm
I'm a biologist, ecologist, ecosystem health, biodiversity. What's that?
Neurophysics?
No. I'd love to, but
Get in.
I'm still a bit of a descriptive guy. Biologists love to name things.
They're using a lot of things with it.
Oh, yeah.
You're in environmental more.
Yes.
I
am now.
Actually, if you're interested for the American University of Armenia.
Yes.
Have you heard of that?
Yes.
They need experts in ecological systems. If you're interested, I can put you in contact with their head. And maybe you could consult and provide some guidance.
No, it's an interesting time in my career because I've now started to teach. I'm teaching a graduate course in school business. I never thought I would.
Have you got your PhD in?
Biology from Tufts University. Tufts, back in Boston.
Not Carnegie Mellon.
No.
I'm at Carnegie Mellon.
In Loyola Marymount University, Mani Shabazzi, she's in education there.
Yeah. And I know so many of the folks in education. I have grants with them.
Should be about the material.
So you're willing to go to Armenia and work with his university and work in neurophysics and physiology. I'll be glad to do the engineering side, and he will do the connections there, and we will get something created there. I'm thinking of alternative medicine for Armenia. Now you can do it for every country, but in this country it's moving up. Kaiser is using it actually.
Yeah, it's alternative doesn't mean ineffective.
Շողորջը մտած խոսալը դրա